What's up, YouTube? Lamani here again, and today, guess what? I'm not bringing you a war build. Don't worry, I'm just trying to push out content so that I don't look like I'm only doing wars and strictly running Orb of Protection. In fairness, I really hate using Orb, so today I'll get to show you some Lights Embrace gameplay. Either way, what I want to do today is show you my open world content build that excels in high damage PvE and PvP content that is extremely tanky and heals just as much as almost any other healer, if not more. You can use this build for some elite mob grinding where you're doing damage and healing a ton. You can switch some gear up to excel in healing expeditions. And in all honesty, I think you could even DPS a dungeon and off heal at the same time, or just be a pure DPS. I'll also show you that it's a great PvP setup that's so strong you'll have enemies either running away or just flat out quitting the game because it really isn't fair. I'm here to show off all the key features of this great build. Don't worry, I've got you. I'll hit everything, and if you have questions, feel free to ask. Nonetheless, you are going to be a force to be reckoned with, and people won't expect the damage you bring out when you're spec'd properly, and on top of that, you are an unkillable healing machine out there in the world. Alright, so here we are in the mastery calculator for the Lifestaff. This build will be a little bit similar to our previous war build that we released. We're just going to be changing up one skill and switching up a couple of the passives. As always, this is a guide to try and help you understand what path you'd like to take and how you can put your own build together so that you can succeed in a way that your playstyle fits best. I'll go over the points I think are the best, but I'll give you some opportunities to see where you might want to change up a passive or switch up something else, just so it might better fit you. First, with every single build, you should be using Absolved. So it's going to make your light and heavy attacks no longer take mana. This is absolutely necessary in any kind of environment, whether you're in PvE, PvP, a mix, everything. The next point I'm going to take is Blissful Touch. Blissful Touch, also super strong. You can see this clip right now where you can shoot Blissful Touch through teammates and it will give each of them a healing circle underneath them. It's not just when you shoot it at the ground, it's both through them and at the ground. First big skill we'll be taking is Sacred Ground. Sacred Ground is so strong. Create an area on the ground that lasts for 15 seconds. It's increased by durations as well, and heals 20% weapon damage every second. This healing will be influenced by our healing modifiers. So we'll take our next 2 points into Sacred Ground, Holy Ground, generate stamina and mana 100% faster while in Sacred Ground. And then we'll take Blessed, which is going to make it so that everybody in there takes 50% more from all healing. So not only do we get that in our Sacred Ground, we'll talk about all of our modifiers later that are going to give you healing effectiveness increases. Our main goal in this healing tree, and there's no real sort of order that we're going here. These are just the big points I think you should get when you're healing general world content, PvE, PvP, a mix, both, just so you don't have to respec in between everything and you can mainly just rely on gearing to switch things up. Regardless, our goal is going to be hitting Divine Blessing. Divine Blessing is significantly stronger than Magnify. Magnify is very undertuned, and Divine Blessing is so strong in every setting. So the points I would go into next are some of these passives. I would take Revitalize so that you can reduce cooldowns with light attacks. It's going to be big when we use our abilities. I would go into Intensify. So you're going to kind of do that 1, 2, 3 heavy attack stacking to get 30% increased healing, which will affect something like Sacred Ground. And then just weave in heavy attacks before that 10 seconds goes up so that you're light attacking the whole time, getting heals out to your teammates. Then you heavy attack just to make sure that you keep healing for more. This healing effectiveness will also apply to Blissful Touch. I would put my next point into Sacred Protection. So this is just going to be a flat 5% healing increase. Who wouldn't want that? Again, it's going to apply to everything. Then I would take Desperate Speed. Again, more cooldown reduction here. Although it's only 10%, it can trigger every 5 seconds, which is pretty big. And it's on any teammate that's below 50% health. So any teammate that you heal below 50% health will reduce all of your cooldowns by 10%. That's pretty big for any of your longer cooldown abilities, so just keep that in mind. Now what we have to do is we have to put one more point into this side in order to get Divine Blessing. We have 2 options, Enchanted Justice and Mending Touch. If you've seen my previous war video, I take Enchanted Justice for wars. But in all other sorts of content, Mending Touch is insane. I only don't take Mending Touch in war settings because I heavy attack to get my healing effectiveness, yes, and it can remove debuffs on players who do have a debuff at that time, but there's not that many debuffs going out from other players in wars. The only things I can think of are maybe a slow or a root, but those don't last very long, and there's not really a great opportunity for them to get removed. Sure, there might also be some burns from some of the fire casters, but generally you can heal through the majority of that. You're not going to be wanting to launch up a heavy attack when all that damage is going out anyway. So it's not something I typically think of in the war setting. But in PvE related content, we can take off all kinds of blight dots, burning dots, slows, poisons, bleeds, all kinds of stuff that comes out from all of the content as you go through expeditions, as you're fighting out in the world. And then, yes, we could remove some of the things that may stem from other players. Enchanted Justice, I just want to preface this again. Enchanted Justice is garbage. I repeat that. I know there's comments saying like, why are you taking Enchanted Justice? I don't want to take it, but in the war setting, I think it has more value than Mending Touch. But again, that's totally up to you. And so I take the Mending Touch route to then get Divine Blessing. Divine Blessing, when they're below 50% health, heal for 30% more. That'll apply to all your heals. That's all we're going to do for the healing tree. These are all of the best skills. Basically all the skills you can take except for Enchanted Justice, because we don't go into Splash of Light and we don't go into Divine Embrace. So it's just the way to get the most value out of all of your skills while also getting the ultimate ability over here. Now the goal over in the Protector tree is we're going to get Beacon and Light's Embrace. So the first thing we're going to do is grab Bend Light, 20% healing effectiveness increase for 5 seconds whenever you dodge. You're dodging a ton, and that's 20% more healing on everything. Worst case scenario, if you can't get Intensify stacks up or you can't get anything else going, just dash before you cast out a heal. It's 20% more effective. What could go wrong? Next, what you're going to do, you're going to take Beacon. And then what I would do is I would put the 2 points into Beacon. I go all the way to get 5 seconds longer. I do not think Speed of Light has that much value in opposition to other talents, whether you're out in the world, whether you're in wars. Maybe there's some edge in PvP because you get that haste increase, but I think there's way more value in other mastery points. So you have a 5 second longer Beacon. Well, something else we can do to increase our durations, we can go into Glowing Focus. This makes Beacon last longer. It'll make any other buff that you grant somebody 20% longer. And as we talk about attributes, there's also a point in the focus line that is going to increase durations as well. And those will be applicative on top of each other. Then the last ability we're going to be taking is Light's Embrace. Light's Embrace, targeted heal, 100% weapon damage, 30% more for every buff you've put on that target. So when they're in your sacred ground, not only will they get healing effectiveness increase, they'll get that 50% more healing. They also get healed for more because they have a buff on them, which is a heal over time from Sacred Ground. They'll also get increased healing from Beacon. If they have a Beacon buff on them, they'll also get another 30% on top of that. It only costs 18 mana and its cooldown is 4 seconds. And there's basically no cast time. You'll put your staff up in the sky, but it's almost an instant heal. Before we continue, I know some people choose to use Divine Embrace. What they do is they get rid of Light's Embrace, they take Divine Embrace, they'll go into Privilege, and then they'll take Shared Struggle. That is a route you can take, and you could do some reworking over here. But personally, I think Divine Embrace is kind of a throw. I know we talk about throwing a lot, but Divine Embrace, 150% weapon damage. There's none of that increased 30% for each buff on the target, which you get a lot of value out of that. Costs 25 mana. We reduce it down to 20. So it already costs 2 more mana than Light's Embrace, which isn't a ton. It also has a longer cooldown. But again, you can't argue we get a bunch of cooldown decreases. But the big thing that I think a lot of people advocate for is this. If the target's below 50% health, heal 1 additional ally within 8 meters for the same amount. I'm going to argue a couple things. One, our goal is to keep people above 50% health. It happens that people get below 50% health, but I don't think you're going to get that much value out of Shared Struggle when you have them getting healed up by HOTS like Sacred Ground and Beacon and your left click, but it's also only an 8-meter radius, which yes, it can be kind of far, but what about in the case where you only have 1 melee or you use it and maybe they're just out of position, they can't also get the value from the heal? My biggest concern with using Divine Embrace though, is that it has a long cast time. You actually have, there's a cast duration bar. It comes out, it's not that long. It's like 1 or 2 seconds. It's like 1 second, 1.5 seconds, but it has a cast time and it can be interrupted whenever you get hit, whenever you get touched by anything. Light's Embrace, it's almost instant. You have no concern. It just goes off. And it can be a huge heal, like up to 6K, depending on how many buffs you have on them. Whereas this Divine Embrace will only ever heal for 150% weapon damage, flat, with obviously the increased modifiers. But then the modifier increase is kind of negated because that applies for both of them, right? Light's Embrace gets the modifiers, Divine Embrace gets the modifiers, but there's way more potential for a Light's Embrace where I can get off 2 Light's Embraces within 8 seconds and maybe heal those 2 people who might have benefited from Shared Struggle while also using less mana and doing it quicker. So I don't think Divine Embrace is the move. I think you can better spend your points using it in Light's Embrace. Now, here's my next point. We have 2 more left, and there's a couple things you can do here. I will always say take Protector Strength. If you have a buff, heal for 10% more, and you always buffed with things like Bend Light. If you touch a beacon, you have a lot of buffs going at all times. So it's basically just a flat 10% damage increase. Now, where the debate comes is on this very, very last point. I think there's a lot of value by putting it into Inspire and putting it into Light's Embrace, because when you have a tank that you're healing with Light's Embrace, you'll be giving them stamina back so that they can keep blocking. This is sometimes going to block another hit that could have saved their life. It's situational. Now, what it comes down to is, do you want to help your teammates or do you want to keep yourself alive? Right? So what we could do is take this point out and put it into Protector's Touch. Lifestaff Light and Heavy grants 15% Fortify for 3 seconds when hitting an enemy, and this will work for Protector's Strength. But what it comes down to is, do you want to support your team more and potentially be a tank healer? So I would recommend this for expeditions and possibly even out in the world. You can give yourself a quick Light's Embrace and you'll get 25 stamina back, maybe when you're dodging people, doing a quick roll, quick dodge, whatever you need. Or you could make the argument that Protector's Touch is better. And maybe when you're out in the world PvPing, you want to hit somebody, get a 15% Fortify. That's great. I personally think there is more value going Protector's Touch route for open world content, which is what this build is more so designed for. So I would say take Protector's Touch. I don't think there's as much personally when you're out in the world doing your own thing for Inspire. Now, if you want to maybe respec less, you could take Inspire for expeditions. But I also think that Protector's Touch has a lot of value in expeditions as well, especially late game with how much damage goes out. I'm going to leave this last point up to you. I'm probably going to take Protector's Touch the majority of the time. I know my brother who tanks wants me to take Inspire, so sometimes I'll have that. It's kind of how I'm feeling. But this last point, I think, is a flex point. You can go Inspire, you can go Protector's Touch. Totally up to you. In general, I think this is the build route I'm going to go most often for open world PvP, expeditions, and just general content. Like, this is like my build where I'm just walking around the world doing whatever. And then I can also flex it into expeditions as well. So Sacred Ground, Light's Embrace, Beacon. Those are the abilities. Yes, we won't take Orb of Protection. I know my war videos have the majority of my views, and I don't want people thinking I'm taking Orb of Protection for non-war content. I don't like the targeted healing system, but I'm not going to take Orb in any sort of PvE situation. It's just not viable. You can kind of keep people alive, but you need Light's Embrace for those really big hits in the late game expeditions. And when you're open world PvPing, this is just busted. People can't kill you ever. They will not kill you. You just kite people around when you start to get low. Or if you just sit with a beacon and Sacred Ground on, they can't get through the damage and you just start pounding through them. Regardless, this is my setup for the healing staff. All right, so now over to the Great Axe. Great Axe, again, I'm not going to give any sort of leveling point build. I'm not going to tell you in what order you should put these in, but I'm going to give you my guide for the setup I use in PvP and PvE to do damage. I will kind of mesh talents together just so that I'm not respecking my Great Axe. Like, I'll take some PvE focused talents, but I'll still use this setup for PvP out in the world. Regardless, it's going to get the job done. It's going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to do a lot of self-healing. You're a sustainable, super tanky healer. So not only do you have all this healing coming from your life staff, you have a lot of healing capability from the Great Axe through all kinds of leech from your damage output. So when you're out there PvPing, when you're out there PvEing, it's very easy to keep yourself up, even just with the Great Axe, because we also get a healing effectiveness increase when we hit 150 focus that we'll talk about later that applies to all of this. So if you don't feel like putting on your life staff for a little bit to go fight some stuff, you don't have to. You'll keep yourself up and you'll kill them pretty quick. So first thing I would do, I would get Reap. Reap is going to pull them forward. It's going to be a 5-meter pull, dealing 110% weapon damage. It's got an 18-second cooldown, which is a little long, but doesn't seem that long when you're out there fighting. Then what we'll do is we'll just increase our Reap effectiveness. So I put this point into the Reap range is now 8 meters. This is actually super far in comparison to the Divine Embrace discussion that we had. When you're pulling somebody 8 meters, it's a lot farther than you would actually think. Then next, I'd put my points into Greed. Greed is super, super strong. It stacks 3 times. Whenever you light attack, you get a 5% damage increase for 5 seconds. So what do? You light, 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 heavy, heavy, light, heavy, heavy, light. If you want to do it like that. Or what you can do is just light, 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 heavy attack, light, heavy attack, or you can just keep light attacking, whatever you feel like is going to work best. But there is great value to heavy attacking, and we'll discuss that when we get into the Mauler tree. So the goal is to get Reap all the way kitted out. So I would just take Frustration next. This is going to be a flat 15% damage increase when one of your attacks is blocked. This again is super OP. Anytime you get blocked, this will happen a lot in PvP. It'll happen a lot with like the shield skeleton mobs or anything out in the world. If they block one of your attacks, 15% damage. So then what can you do? Make sure it gets blocked, hit them with some light attacks, get your greed stacks up, and then hit them with a 30% increased damage heavy attack. It's nuts. I would then put my next point into hunger. This is a lot of our healing sustain here. So when you pull them now with Reap, you get 30% of that damage being done, which again, to remind you, is 110% of your weapon damage as a heal. So 110% of your weapon damage, 30% of that is a heal, but just you wait. Let's put our last one into Fatal Attraction. So now you do a spin attack that does 115% damage after you pull them. So pull, heal, spin, damage, heal. Boom. Big chunky healing here. Now we're going to continue with the topic of healing. And if we put one into Feed, our Great Axe against foes below 30% health, heal you now for 10% of the damage done. Imagine that you pull them when they're below 30% health. All of that damage that's healing you, that 30% from Reap, you also get 10% of that damage done as a 30% heal back. Just applicative healing there makes it easy for you to stay alive and sustain yourself. Continuing with this idea of healing, we're a healer, so we might as well get as much as we can out of our Great Axe. If we go into critical gains, whenever you make a critical hit with a Great Axe, heal yourself for 10% of the damage done. So we have all the healing from Reap. We have the healing when they're below 30% health. Well, now what if we crit? Well, if we hit the enemy from behind, for those of you who don't know, if you hit an enemy from behind, it's always a guaranteed critical attack. We're getting healed for 10% of that. So if we Reap them from behind, hit them again with our spin, we're getting healed for all of that. And then imagine they're below 30% health. You're getting healed for all of that on top of the 150 focus increased healing effectiveness that you get increased on this. That's a lot of healing, ladies and gents. That's a lot of healing, and it's going to keep you alive in PvP especially. The Reap tree is the main tree over here, so we're really going to focus on putting the majority of our points into these passives. So next what I would do is on top of this critical hit gain, I would say Keen Edge. So critical damage is increased by 10%. That not only increases our damage throughput, it increases our healing throughput as well on critical hits. Super strong, and a lot of your attacking is you're gonna at least try to do it from behind. So that's just a flat 10% increase to your damage. Next passive I take is Critical Condition. Great Axe attacks on foes below 30% health, critical 15% more often. Again, even more healing here. So we heal when targets are below 30% health, but then we also crit them more often, which then also gives us more healing. And then we do more critical damage, which also gives us more healing. We do a ton of damage, we crit a bunch, and we keep ourselves up to the point where in PvP situations, people just can't kill you and they run away. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. If you don't do enough damage to kill them, you just out-sustain them and just keep going and keep the fight continuing and chase them down. And you pull them in with gap, like Reap, keep them close to you and just annihilate them. So we put our point into Critical Condition. Now this unlocks our ultimate ability. We take Bloodlust. You move 30% faster and deal 15% more damage when looking at a foe within 15 meters. 15% damage increase means more healing. We also can chase people down in PvP. 15 meters is pretty damn far. So something else you can do out in the world is just keep your Great Axe on and look at chickens and stuff. Look at doe, look at boars, look at anything, especially in low level zones, and you'll move 30% faster when you're out in the world. It's very, very, very nice. It won't look if you free look behind you, but if they're in front of you and they're still able to be attacked from that perspective, you will get the speed increase. And then our final point, I would just put it into Death's Embrace. 10% armor pen when they're below 50% health, more damage, more healing. You know the drill. It's pretty strong. It's just a flat damage really increase, and it'll help a lot in PvP as well. We almost take every single passive in our Reaper side. Reaper is OP. Our last point that we're going to put into the Reaper tree is Charge. So we take Charge. This is one of the best gap closers in the game. You have a super fast charge. It does weapon damage when you reach a target, or you can press the left mouse button and it will also do that damage. It's a 20-second cooldown. You can chase people down. You can use it for mobility. You can use it to get across water. You can use it to run away. It's great when you're in the I'm PvPing somebody, I'm doing damage, but I'm all the way healed up. They're starting to get scared and run away. Well, you just charge them down, hit them with the charge, reap them back in, and they're done. They're dead. We'll talk about some of these points later, but what I would do then is go over to the Mauler tree, and our focus is getting Gravity Well. Gravity Well is another one that just keeps your targets close and lets you annihilate people in PvP while also having a ton of strength in PvE. So first point I put in, heavy pull. Heavy attacks with a Great Axe pull foes closer to you. It's okay. The main reason we take it is just because if you get hit while holding a Great Axe and you're below 50% health, gain 40 stamina, but it's a 20-second cooldown, I think we can get more value out of it in PvP to take heavy pull and keep people close, as well as grouping up mobs. because a lot of the time we won't have to regen that stamina, and then it just becomes a waste sometimes. You could take it if you want. Don't take heavy pull. Totally up to you. I think you have more value here, and we can get more value by not taking this. Next, Enduring Strike. Adds grit to heavy axe great attacks and grants a 20% damage reduction while the heavy attack is active. So you'll start to swing your heavy attack and you'll just glow. That means grit is active and you have a 20% damage reduction. Strong in PvP, strong in PvE, but it's also why we can swing, great attack. The heavy attack will not be interrupted and it'll grant us a 20% damage reduction. So we can for sure get that hit off in PvP. We can for sure get that hit off in PvE. And then if it crits all of our healing modifiers, then maybe it's going to heal us up this time. Maybe it won't. Either way, the heavy attack will do a bunch of damage and it can't be interrupted anymore. So if you're getting to the point in PvE or PvP where you keep getting staggered or you're taking some damage, just keep Great Axe heavy attacking and just left and right heavy attack, even without your damage modifier, and you'll get the job done. You can also use it to like cheese the bomb mines that get set out that knock you down from certain PvE bosses. Instead of dodge rolling, if you're out of stamina, just charge up a heavy attack and it won't knock you down. There's a lot of things like that. I'm also low key, don't tell anybody, I'm working on a Great Axe tanking build that is based upon Enduring Strike with a Lifestaff and healing yourself up and taking less damage in heavy armor. We'll see how it works. We're working on it. I'm thinking about it. We'll see what happens. It's on the list. I got a lot of things to do. Next point that I would take, Gravity Well. Gravity Well is so strong. PvE, PvP, group people up, keep your PvP target close to you. You reap them, they start to run away, gravity well them or pre-gravity well them. Then as the gravity well blows up, pull them, then hit them up, chop them up a bit, charge them, keep them close, and then like heavy attack them to keep them close. Gravity well is super great for that. But the next point in gravity well, increase burst damage by 10% for each foe caught in the vortex. That is super strong too, but in PvE. It's going to give you a 10% damage increase in PvP, or if you're in a war and you want to use this kind of build in a war or just big, heavy open world PvP, Crowded Well is going to be huge. Tons of extra damage. Gravity Well itself does pretty good damage, especially when you modify it with like the light attack modifier or some of the other ones that we have. Regardless, Gravity Well is very, very nice for keeping targets close, grouping them together, and getting a lot of AoE, whether it's PvE or PvP. A nice little combo I'll do in PvE is I'll chop, light attack, get 15% more damage. Maybe I'll get blocked too there at some point, get another 15%. Gravity Well on like 10 mobs, keep them all together. As that explodes, I'll reap them so that I get Gravity Well explosion and then all the reap pull damage and then all the reap spin damage on an AoE, and I'll start heavy attacking so that I can't get interrupted. It's a lot of damage that you can put out there, especially with the fact that you're a healer. Now, here's where I start to struggle a little bit, and it's going to depend on the type of content that you want to do to put in your last few points. When I'm doing my tanking stuff, I'm going to put this point into unyielding. I think getting a 10% fortify while standing in your well is very strong. You could take it out in the world or for general content. So that point is an option, right? You group up all these mobs, you have a 10% fortify. You group up another player, 10% fortify. I think there's a lot of value in maybe taking crowded protection if you're AoE PvEing, right? You have 3 or more enemies near you, 10% damage absorption if they're within 4 meters. So when you're pulling people, when you're gravelling, when you're doing all that, this is more of a PvE focused talent point. So if you have a lot of enemies around you, feel free to take crowded protection. I'm going to take this in my tanking setup when I make it. So crowded protection is huge. Now on the flip side, if you want to put out more damage and do more healing, this is going to be another PvE centered way, but while holding a Great Axe, gain 10% damage when 3 or more foes are within 4 meters. There's not often times in PvE other than wars and huge, great scale world PvE that you have 3 or more within 4 meters, but 10% damage increase here. These 2 points, center of attention and crowded protection, are going to be more PvE focused, and you can take them if you want, and they'll still potentially have value through PvP settings, possibly not as much, but it's also worth taking them if you don't want to respec and you want to focus on putting these points in. Now, something else that you could do is if you want to be just strict PvP setup, whenever you pull a foe, they're held 30% longer. That means when you're pulling them on heavy pull and you're pulling them on reap, they're there 30% longer. Is that worth to you? Do you think locking down your target is more valuable than taking this? So if you're more of a PvP focused person, maybe take gravity. There's also value in Mauler's Resolve. If you want to take Mauler's Resolve and get that 40 stamina back when you're below 50% health on a 20-second cooldown, be my guest. There's also one more that you could make the
argument for that executioner speed, hitting 2+ targets with a single Great Axe light swing grants you 3 seconds of 20% haste. Maybe more PvE focused, maybe in that 2v1 situation. I don't typically run away. It would be great to chase one person down, but I think executioner speed won't really be used in a 1v1 situation where somebody's running. So I think out of all of those, executioner speed would be my last place. I personally will always take unyielding just because I think there's a lot of benefit from that fortify for your allies and for yourself. But then the other point I put in is I go center of attention just because it's going to help me put out a little bit more damage. I'm pretty tanky and I can heal myself as is, so crowded protection doesn't have as much value, but I do a lot of PvP and a lot of PvE. And so I think center of attention is my greatest point. So if I had to give you a best tier list, I would take unyielding and I would take center of attention. My next point that I would maybe flex is crowded protection or maybe the pull. Depends on the content you want to do, guys. It's totally up to you. This is my ideal setup. There's a lot of synergy here. You can chase people down. You get an extended pull. You get a lot of AoE potential. There's a lot to do here. Tons of AoE, tons of damage for a healer. I mainly focus on getting these passives in the Reaper tree and then making sure that I have charge, reap, and gravity well. Passives in the Mauler tree are mainly up to you. There's a few requirements, like I'd say get heavy pull and enduring strike and make sure you have crowded well. But I think those last 2 points are flex. Totally up to you. Use this information to help you guide yourself in your open world setup. This is mine. This is what I think is best. You do you, boo-boo.
All right, everyone. So let's talk about how we can properly optimize our Lifestaff usage and Great Axe usage out in the world for open world PvP and PvE, while also flexing it into a proper expedition setup for healing. Let's get into the attributes here. So as you can see, I'm currently at 82 strength, 205 focus, and 134 constitution. What I would suggest is that you go for the minimums of 50 strength, 200 focus, and 100 constitution. I think these are the most important bubbles to get, and then what you can do is base your gear off what you would like to do. Would you like to do more damage? Well, then focus more into strength. If you'd like to do more healing, put more points into focus. And if you'd like to be more tanky and feel like you're really getting messed up, go into constitution. I just think going to the first 50 strength bubble is very important to get that 5% damage on light attacks. It's just going to increase your damage output, but I also feel that 50 strength is a decent enough number for you to put out a lot of damage on your Great Axe. The reason I go into 200 focus is for 2 reasons. So one, the 200 focus gives you that 20% duration on casted buffs, which really synergizes well with that 20% duration increase we see in our mastery tree with the Lifestaff. You then also get some scaling by going up to 200, a decent chunk, but the other big reason is just to at least hit the 150 focus bubble. So at the bare minimum, at least put 150 focus in, because this is where we get our 20% healing output from. Now this 20% healing output not only allows us to play in a medium loadout, it also applies to our Great Axe. So any of those healing talents that are on the mastery tree for the Great Axe that do any sort of healing will have a 20% healing output. That 20% healing output then also applies everything to your Lifestaff. I would suggest the 200 just because of the duration. It helps you a little bit more in expeditions, but maybe you want your loadout when you're out in the world to just be pure strength and you want to get up to 100, 150 strength. Be my guest. If you feel like you want to do that, that's great. I like sitting around the 200 focus mark because I do get some conversion with the gem that's in my axe that we'll talk about, and it allows me to heal most effectively, at least in my opinion. My constitution, I think, is a little high. I could probably decrease that a little bit. I'm at 134, but I think the best thing to do is at least get 100. Increasing your max health by 10% of your physical armor is a huge increase because we're in medium armor. It's a lot of extra health that we'll be seeing, and it's super important for out in the world, especially that PvP environment, as well as late game PvE for some of those expeditions. The mobs really start to hurt. Regardless, whatever you do, a lot of what's going to be changing up is because of your gear. So 50 strength, bare minimum, 150 focus, bare minimum, and then 100 constitution, bare minimum. At the end of the day, it's up to you. Feel out what you think is best for you. Do you want to do more damage? Strength. More healing? Focus. Want to be more tanky? Go constitution. All right, let's get into gearing a little bit. So you'll see right now I'm in a medium loadout. I'm at 21.7 out of 50. The max we can go is 23.0, so I'm not the most properly optimized, but you can see I have a bunch of random gear in my bags that could get me to there. I'm just looking to increase my gear score right now and using whatever I can to get a decent stat distribution to make sure I'm still strong, but to also increase my watermarks so that I can get more gear. Right now I have a heavy helmet, medium chest, medium gloves, medium pants, and heavy boots. This isn't the most proper distribution of gear. The goal is to get heavy helmet,
heavy chest, medium gloves, light pants, and medium boots. But again, it's all going to come down to what gear are you getting, what do you have on you, what stats do you need, how have you contributed your stats to your attribute sheet. It's totally up to you and what's going on there. So play it by ear, play it by your gear, and see what happens. As far as life staffs go, what I would recommend when you're farming a life staff, before we get into this, use your faction vendor. If you're really struggling to find one early, I'm building up tokens so that I can do that because I blew mine on something stupid early. I have a 500 gear score one. It has 24 focus, a gem slot, and blessed, 25% healing bonus. The main thing when you're getting a life staff, regardless of gear score level, it needs to have blessed on it. You get so much value out of blessed, even though it's a lower gear score, that it's just not worth to take some things that are quite a bit higher just because it's disproportionate to the amount it can heal. Focus on blessed. The 2 life staffs at level 49 and 60 from your faction vendors will give you that. There's also the 580 life staff that you can get after hitting level 15 with any weapon. It opens up an epic weapon quest line. The 580 life staff that you get is not that great trait-wise, but it might still be better than a 500 gear score with blessed because it is 580 based on its damage value and how we correlate that to healing. Same thing for the axe. Axe is great. What I would suggest is get an axe that fills out the stat priority that you need. Right now, I am currently working on getting the 580 quest for the axe, which I can publish a video on that if anybody needs help figuring that out. I think I might just do it anyway. Big thing with the axe, put an amber gem in. We'll talk about gems in a second here. That's where you get a ton of damage. My biggest thing when it comes to gearing, have more gear than you'll think you'll need. I have 2 other helmets in here. I have another 2 chest pieces, more gloves. I have 3 pairs of pants. I'm trying to get as much gear as possible so that I can set up for anything that comes. Like if I get a way higher set of gloves, maybe I got to change out something else so that I can get it to balance out so I can keep my gear score high, but still get these good stats. So don't be afraid to keep a bunch of gear in your pockets. It is okay. As a healer, you're going to be switching your loadout a lot. Don't be afraid. Now, if you want to flex to be an expedition style healer, keep an ice gauntlet on you. Try to get con and focus in here. Try to get just focus in here. When we're healing expeditions, depending on how geared your group is and how much healing you need to put in, you may need to run pure focus, no strength setup to get the most healing possible. But that's all you'll really need to do to heal expeditions. It should just be a gear swap, put on the ice gauntlet. It doesn't matter as much to get an amber gem in there. Ideally, we'd want an amber gem so we could put down some AoE, help out the team. But having that ice gauntlet to keep yourself alive, to regen mana on your ice block, it can make or break some of your runs. It honestly can. When your tank dies, somehow you can tank a lot through that ice block and keep healing yourself while you're doing it. So focus on that. As far as foods go, if you're having some bubbles that you're struggling to get when you're about to do something like an expedition, say you're maybe a little bit of focus down or out in the world, you want to have some extra focus. A lot of these attribute foods are really easy to make, like increase your focus by 10 for 25 minutes and it'll give you that next bubble. It'll help a lot. Or if you just want to get more healing out or get more damage out, start getting a strength food, start getting a focus food, get a hybrid food of strength and focus, strength and constitution, focus constitution, whatever other bubbles you have, clean them up with attribute food. All right, getting into gems, big things that you need. Let's start off with the life staff. Put a diamond in. I keep saying this in every video I make when I'm talking about gems. I haven't put in the best gem into my life staff. I'm waiting until it's above 500. Then I'll get a good gem cut and I'll put a tier 5 diamond into my staff. The tier 5 diamond will do increased damage and outgoing healing while at full health. And lucky you, you're a healer, so you dictate whether or not you're at full health. For armor, when we're looking at armor, I have to gem these 2 pieces. I just got them. But I am putting onyxes into my gear. This is going to give me physical damage absorption. If you are wanting a hybrid of physical and magical damage absorption, and you can still get that benefit, you will see some more magic damage in PvE environments. You'll see more physical in PvP. Do what you want. Do what you feel best about. Whatever you're most confident in, do your thing. The absolute most important gem that you get when you're doing this open world loadout is to have amber gems. I only have a tier 4 in this one. So 40% of my damage is converted to nature, and that damage is going to scale off our focus. Luckily, we have a decent focus value. It should be around 200, and we'll get some scaling off of that. It's going to make us more versatile, meaning we're more super effective to some mobs, whereas when we use an axe, we might not always be. Gives us that chance of getting nature damage. I know when you fight corrupted, you'll get double buffed, right? Because you'll get the swing of the axe as well as the nature buff, and they're both super effective. Gives you more diversity. It also increases your damage a lot because you're putting so many points into focus. Amber gem is a key. That is really the main thing that drives this kind of build. Not only are we putting in strength, but we're also getting so much more damage value out of our focus gem. Hey everyone, I did indeed get my 580 axe, the Reformation. Here it is. I will make a video on how to get this just because there's not a lot of info on how to get it. I'm critting for over like 2K now. I'm hitting significantly harder. And here are my attributes after putting that on. 100 strength, 200 focus, 120 con. I'm a fiend out there, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, so I think it's just best that we close out the video with some clips of PvE and PvP from the Great Axe Lifestaff build. When it comes to PvE, make sure you're utilizing your cooldowns and knowing what your passives are. Make sure you get those 3 light attacks in to take advantage of any enemies that are blocking, and really wombo combo those gravity wells and reaps together to get so much AoE damage. You can see from this clip, I'm still able to effectively heal multiple elite mobs over the level of 60 in a 2-man group while also putting out damage at the same time. It's great. It's a great open world build. Would I specifically use it in a dungeon that is really tough content that I'm struggling to heal? No, I wouldn't. But when you're running around open world, this is great for PvE and PvP. In PvP, make sure you're using your cooldowns to keep your enemies close. You're utilizing them to the best of their capabilities. You are using them on cooldown, and also making sure that you're using them in a situational way. Make sure that you use it as people are about to run away. Pull them back in, annihilate them with your Great Axe, and if you ever get low, heal yourself with Light's Embrace, but make sure that you're actively healing yourself through things like Sacred Ground of Beacon. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the length of this video. It's long. There's a lot of content. It's a real deep dive on everything, and I know I probably missed something. So if there's anything you have questions about, please just leave it in the comments and I will get back to you, and I will make sure to heart and like every single comment. I've got you. I hope this content was helpful. I am really looking forward to putting out more, maybe not as many build guides and maybe just more so some gameplay as I start to delve into the end game even more. Hopefully I'll put out some 580 weapon guides, and I'm still theory crafting. I promise I've got some crazy builds in my head, like a rapier lifestaff thing, a great axe tanking build. I'm thinking some fire staff focus setups. I've got stuff cooking. Don't worry, I have content, I just need the time to make it. And I really appreciate everybody sticking around and helping me grow the channel. We're already at almost 200 subs. I just started putting content out a week ago. This is huge for me, and I really appreciate it. You have no idea. I appreciate every single one of you. I know this guide was more so build heavy and a lot more discussion and theory. Hopefully it helps you put your best foot forward as you start pursuing endgame content. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what else you want to see. Please do that weird YouTube shit, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being you.